Good morning. Welcome to Patrice's Projects. Today I'm just going to talk a little bit about yard-long beans. It's not often you get to see the blossom for the yard-long bean, and it's just really pretty. That's kind of why I wanted to talk a little bit about them. So not only did I get to see one, but they're just blooming all over the place this morning. Yard-long beans have several different names. Yard-long beans, asparagus bean, and Chinese long bean. And what they are, they start off these long, skinny things, and this is pretty darn long. And it'll keep growing, and if you let it keep going, it'll end up about 2 feet, sometimes more. You want to pick it at about 12 to 18 inches long, just when this is nice and filled out and round. When it's just starting to get bumpy, that's when they're the most tender, before it gets all the way full with where you can see each individual bean inside of there. They taste just like regular beans. They don't taste like asparagus, even though that's what they'll be called. And one thing that I have noticed is if you don't get the little flower head off of the end of the bean, the end will shrivel like that. So you want to kind of keep an eye on them, and if the flower thing is hanging off the end, remove it so that you get the full length of the bean. They usually grow in pairs of 2 like this. You'll see 2 flowers at the end of each one of these little stems that grows off of the main stalk. And this one over here. Sometimes they're a little overzealous. This one looks like it's going to go for 3, possibly 4. Same as this one here. This is from my seed that I saved from last year, and hopefully I save more this year and I'll be able to share some. Last year I only saved from a couple of pods, and I only saved the seed that looks the best, so I didn't end up with that many. I also received some seed from someone else, so there's only one of them survived. The first one down here is not from my seed, and then the last one over here. I only planted 4 from someone else, but we'll see which grows better. So far, mine are winning. Another reason I brought my camera out is because I saw leaf miner damage. And leaf miners, they're bugs that that will embed inside of the leaf and cause these squiggly lines. This leaf is pretty badly infested. What I heard from some is you can pinch the leaf and kill the bug inside of it if it's still in there. I'm not feeling anything. I've tried a few leaves. I sprayed a few days ago with neem oil, so it's possible that I already killed the bugs and just didn't notice the leaf miner damage until today, because my focus a few days ago was spider mites. And green beans, any type of beans, they will get hit pretty heavily with spider mites. Let me show you on the other trellis behind here. I have Kentucky Wonder, and they are doing pretty darn good. These will fruit before the Asian long bean, and I've already harvested some beans off of it, just like a big handful. But right now it's still in the major flower production. I did notice, though, because I planted these late, it's dropping a lot of blossoms. So I hope that these Asian long beans don't follow suit. Let me show you the got sidetracked again. What to look for when you're inspecting your garden for insects. And you can see on this leaf here, let me focus in a little better, that the leaf is kind of mottled, and if you were me and close up, you would see it kind of has a little bit of a sandpapery look to it, and kind of the texture too. That's when you know you have some sort of mite going on in your garden, is when you see stuff like that. I removed almost all the leaves already. Let me look for a good one. These leaves here definitely have spider mite damage, and I'll be removing these as soon as I turn the camera off. So you see it's all speckled, and kind of looks like sandpaper. It's hard to tell on the camera, I think. And then back there, that's definite spider mite damage, so I'm going to go and grab my clippers and remove those, but this is not the Asian long bean. As with any other type of bean or peas or any legume, I think that's how you say it, I always get it wrong, so I did listen to it recently, and I think it's a legume. Anyway, they're nitrogen fixers, and what that means is, basically, this is a brand new bed that I put them in, and very few things are going to do excellently in a new bed. However, I did amend it with my compost and with some bagged steer manure. But legumes, nitrogen fixing means that on their roots, they'll have little, when at the end of season you pull them out, you see these little nodules on them. That's where they're storing up nitrogen for the plant. And so when these are done, a lot of people will use legumes as cover crop. During the winter, I've never done cover crop. I've never had to because I can grow year-round here in California. Sorry, guys, they can't do that. But a lot of people use them for cover crop because they will store nitrogen down in the roots. And you can also turn the plant in because all this nice green leafy stuff, if it's still alive, when you turn it in, that's also nitrogen in your soil. However, you can't plant right away. You have to wait a little bit if you turn plants in, because while they're decomposing in the soil, they're going to take up nitrogen. So once that happens, once they break down, then you can plant and you're going to have a lot of nitrogen. Some plants, and I can't think of any right offhand, don't really care for high nitrogen in the soil. So after you plant legumes in an area, you have to make sure that the type of plant you're following it with is not one that is sensitive to high nitrogen. When you plant these, though, they don't need a real high nitrogen soil. In fact, you probably don't want too much nitrogen, otherwise you're just going to get huge foliage and lots of leaves, and you're going to have this huge bushy thing before you get any beans. So basically, when you're removing your beans at the end of the season when they're spent, make sure to leave the roots in there so that you're keeping all that good nitrogen in the soil. I realized this wasn't really a project today, but I did want to share my Asian long beans with you. Definitely something, if you're a green bean eater, you want to try in your garden. Like I said, you can get quite a bit off of the plants. Some people, when they get to the top of the trellis, but my trellis is so short, and it's standing in a bed, a pretty tall bed, you snip them off when they reach the top of the trellis, and supposedly they branch more. I did snip one. So far I don't see any extra branching, so I just went ahead and I'm trying to wind them down the trellis so I can get more beans off of them. But if you have if you're growing in ground, you have a really tall trellis, go ahead and try that, and you'll probably get more production off of them. Anyway, thanks for joining me again in my garden. If you have any questions, comments, or just want to say hi, go ahead and put that. If you're growing Asian long beans, yard long beans, whatever you want to call them, and you have some information, go ahead and put that too. I'd appreciate that. Any information I can use to better my garden, I'd appreciate all of that. If you're not a subscriber yet, I'd appreciate you doing that, and then click that bell button for notifications of my upcoming videos. And I will see you next time. Bye.